Once you lock in that cruise deal and give the go-ahead on your booking, it feels like the heavy lifting is done. But the difference between a cruise that lives up to your expectations and one that falls flat, it isn't decided at booking. It's decided by what you do or you don't do in the months and weeks that follow. The cruise lines set up a system that quietly penalizes anyone who treats the planning process as a set it and forget it vacation. So the real gap isn't about what you pack or which port you pick, but how you handle the invisible deadlines and decision points that hit well before you ever step on board. Most cruise first-timers don't realize just how much their entire experience can be downgraded by missing those windows. Hi, I'm Melissa, a university professor who loves to cruise and who loves to talk ship. Now, a lot of new cruisers think the real choices end once they book the trip, but the window between booking and sailing is packed with a lot of steps and decisions that actually can shape and make or break your cruise. Now, cruise lines don't spell this out, but they've engineered the process so those who move fast get the perks and everyone else gets the leftovers or they're left scrambling. So here's how that unfolds. After booking, most people tuck the confirmation away and go about their lives, thinking, oh, I'll come back to the details later. But around 90 to 120 days out, the doors open to things like online check-in, excursions, specialty dining, and other must-haves. Now, this moment is not always clearly announced, and it's really easy to miss if you're not paying attention. What usually happens is simple. The reminder gets buried, you procrastinate, and by the time you finally remember and log in, sometimes the day before your cruise, the options are already gutted. The excursions you wanted, they're sold out. That buzzed about restaurant you wanted to try, fully booked, or there's only a 9:30 p.m. dining time, and suddenly you're left sorting through with what nobody else wanted. And this plays out constantly. In Facebook groups, you'll see panic posts about excursions selling out or premium experiences being unavailable. This is not a rare glitch, it's unfortunately part of the system with cruising. Early birds tend to get the best, and the latecomers get the leftovers. Now, cruise lines benefit from this setup, keeping demand high for paid add-ons and rewarding quick action. Like if you buy Wi-Fi in advance, it's a lot cheaper than if you buy it on the ship, without ever advertising how cutthroat the process can actually be. It's first come, first served, but that part stays buried in the fine print. If you miss the early window and you lose control over even basics like your boarding time. Most cruise lines let you pick your embarkation slot during online check-in, but those prime times disappear fast. And if you show up late at check-in, you might spend your first hours wading through crowds and chaos and to be left waiting, all because you weren't ready the second that window opened. Now, it is important to note, not all cruise lines require that you pick an embarkation window, but most of them do. And seasoned cruisers have been around long enough to know when exactly that is, and they often will stay up until midnight for that online selection to open, and they're gonna snag the best spots. Shore excursions can also be very competitive. Hot ticket experiences like the White Pass Railroad in Alaska, I did that last summer, it was great, or certain premium beach options like at Royal Caribbean's Perfect Day at Coco Cay, they can vanish sometimes really quickly. And if you wait till the last minute to book, you might be disappointed to find some of these things or options or private cabanas or access to certain premium areas, they're all now sold out. You can't get in. New cruisers underestimate how fierce the scramble can be sometimes for these spots. Now, I will say, at every cruise port, there's always something to do. I actually prefer independent excursions over cruise line excursions, so don't fret too much about this, but if you do have your heart set on a specific cruise line experience or excursion, you don't want to wait and delay on getting that booked. And specialty dining follows that same pattern, especially if you're cruising with a cruise line like Virgin Voyages, which does not have a traditional main dining room or MDR. You have to reserve things in advance. Some cruise lines on certain ships also require that you reserve show times for popular shows. And those hard to get spots, you better bet they're going to be booked weeks out by the seasoned cruisers and the cruisers that have priority status, not the night before. So if you don't pay attention to this, your options start to narrow really quickly, including for dining options, and you're stuck with whatever is left. Now, the whole thing is designed to push you into pre-planning far more than you would probably for a typical land-based vacation. So while cruising can be relaxing and spontaneous in a lot of ways, that sometimes doesn't match how the system actually works. And cruise lines profit by making the most desirable experiences scarce, that kind of false scarcity, and locking them in early behind the action. Now, you can be spontaneous, you can decide to wing it, and you'll still always enjoy the basics. I always say you're never gonna starve on a cruise. Even if you miss all of the dining times, there's still gonna be food. There's always the buffet. There's always other options, like Carnival has blue iguana tacos, they have Guy's Burgers, stuff like that. It's delicious. In a pinch, you can always get room service. You're gonna eat, but you might not get to try the best specialty restaurants on the ship or get the ideal dining times. And there's usually walk-up spots for shows, but that does add, I think, a little bit of stress to your vacation, and you may miss out on some entertainment options and entirely if you're not able to snag one of those limited walk-up spots. Because sometimes all of these things that takes a cruise from just fine to fantastic get snapped up by the planners, the people who are always looking ahead. Now, for first timers, that gap can be jarring. I remember my first cruise, I literally did that. I booked my cruise. I didn't think about it until like the day before. I didn't think of any of this other stuff. And that can be a psychological hit too, because you're on the ship, you see other people enjoying all of the things that you wanted, all the experiences you wanted. They're raving about dinner at such and such restaurant. You're like, oh, well, I missed it. So how do you avoid this chaos and this unnecessary stress? Well, I have two recommendations. One, this is where a great travel agent can help you. A great travel agent will watch your booking and they'll actually jump on it if the price drops in your fare. And as long as you haven't made final payment, a lot of times you can get the price difference back in the form of onboard credit between the price you originally paid and the lower price. And a lot of times too, the price drop goes for all of these extras as well. If the cruise line drops a price on an excursion, you can take advantage of that as well. And a great travel agent is going to make sure too, you also know when check-in opens to snag the ideal embarkation time, when restaurant reservations open, and when that final payment date hits. I've actually done this before myself. I missed a final payment deadline. I just missed the email and my cruise got canceled, and it's non-refundable, at least the part that I'd paid thus far. I was able to call the cruise line and get it reinstated and not lose my money, but these are things you've got to pay attention to, or you can be penalized, or you can lose your cruise entirely. So a really great travel agent is going to help you with those strategic windows of when to book, when to make changes, stuff like that. And the best thing about a travel agent is you actually get all of the service at no extra cost. And the price that you pay booking a cruise with a travel agent, it's going to be the same as if you book it yourself directly, or if you book it with a vacation planner with a cruise line. But usually these vacation planners, they're not going to be watching these things for you. They're not going to be reminding you, hey, it's time for you to select your embarkation time, stuff like that. So a really great travel agent is worth their weight in gold. And I am a travel agent. I mostly just book my own travel, friends and family, but I do have some great booking partners. They're all fantastic, phenomenal travel agents. If you want me to connect you with one of them, happy to do that. I'll drop my link below. Now, if you are an anti-travel agent person, I don't understand anyone that would be, but they are out there, or you just like the control or a DIY person, what you can do to make sure that you don't miss these important windows is to do your homework. Once you've got your cruise booked, research your specific cruise line because they're all different. Go to the Facebook groups for that cruise line and figure out what are those important pivotal windows and put them on your calendar as a reminder and make sure that you do not miss them. So it's absolutely possible to stay on top of these things yourself, but you don't know what you don't know until you miss an important deadline. And I'll also say those online Facebook groups are also worth their weight in gold because it's a really great way to learn the ins and outs of specific cruise lines because again, they're all different. For example, Royal Caribbean opens check-in 45 days out. Carnival varies from about 14 to 30 days. Norwegian is around 21. So it's particularly difficult when they're all so different. And booking windows for things like excursions and dining, they also don't nicely match check-in. They're different time windows, and that can make it difficult as well. And there's another wrinkle, which is loyalty status. Seasoned cruisers and suite guests usually get first dibs before the newbies even get to see the options. And that head start means that even if you are earlier on the booking windows, you might still be competing for leftovers. So that's another reason why you don't want to miss these important deadlines or these booking windows when they open. So figure out the important dates, put them on your calendar, don't miss them. And if you're forgetful, you don't like to plan, and you're like, that's stressful, that's not why I cruise, I want to chill and set it, forget it, and relax, then hand off the heavy planning load to a good travel agent. As a first timer, the rules just are not in your favor, but you can close that gap with a bit of vigilance, smart planning, using a travel agent, and/or good timing.